Time to pull up a chair and talk some dynasty football. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and this is the Ride Or Dynasty podcast. Tonight on the Rod Pod, we are breaking down QB tiers. No, we're not talking about the QB tiers I cried when I turned on the Jets season opener about 10 minutes late and saw Zach Wilson walking on the field. We are talking about the tiers that how you should group your quarterbacks to ensure that you aren't reaching for them in your drafts. Solid tiers result in solid drafts. And to help us do this, let's warmly welcome the master of disaster, Jameson Hutchinson. Jameson, are you ready to tear it up?
I'm ready. I don't think I've got any scorching hot takes, but do got some guys I want to talk about. I'm very excited about it. Just kind of get into this mode, kind of decipher some of the quarterback landscape, especially after all the injuries last year. I think there's a lot of values. I think there's a lot of people who are a little bit overvalued, but I'm excited to get into all of it.
All right. And a hearty hello to the siren of scouting, Joe Harlow. Joe, are you ready to share your tears of a clown?
As long as I don't have to talk about Gardner Minshew more than Anthony Richardson, I will be content. But affiliate with the quarterback injuries.
But we shall see. So outside of a question mark in the Mysterians reference, I'm about done with puns about tiers. So let's get right. I'm not. But let's get to the news. Jaylen Waddle is the latest running wide receiver to sign an extension. Today, he signed a 3-year, $84.75 million extension, which begins in 2026. This puts Waddle in the top 5 of the highest paid wide receivers. It makes Miami the home of the most expensive wide receiver duo. Joe, is Waddle worth the bag?
I think he is. I wouldn't say he's a top 5 wide receiver today, but we know that's not how the market works. You pay for what has happened, what will happen more so. He's still young, just turning 25 recently, and I think he's really a top tier receiver. I think he is the best number 2 receiver in the league. So I think he's worth every penny and could be a legitimate number 1 receiver. And I think he will be well worth that money.
All right. The cap's only going to go up, so yeah, that price will just go down. Jameson, are they the best wide receiver duo in the NFL?
I'd say top 3. I personally like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins above them, even though I think I like Waddle better than T. Higgins, but I think that's personal preference with Chase. There's a lot of really good ones. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith is right there in that realm. If you think Cooper Kupp is going to be healthy and playing like he was before, I think Puka and Cooper Kupp go together really well. And then Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel is another fun one. But I'd say 1 or 2. I think it just depends on what flavor you like. If you like speed, you're going down to Miami. If you like, more of the big boys, I think you head to Cincinnati with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Interesting. And if you like a mix, go to Philly.
There you go.
You have the
you get Slim Reaper and the prototype that's A.J. Brown. So just, I don't know. It's very fun in the NFL right now.
It is fun in the NFL right now, Jameson. And to get ready for your NFL drafts, our comprehensive 2024 IDP Plus rookie guide is here. So get the rookie draft guide for a limited time for only $9.99. The latest version includes all of the post-draft feedback you need to dominate your drafts. So check out the link in the show description and download your copy today. Now, gentlemen, before we start, we are looking at Dynasty QB tiers from Fantasy Pros. Joe and Jameson are going to decide who needs to move either up or down a tier. And if, and only if they disagree, Judge JJ will step in and decide. So to start, let's take a look at our top 2 tiers. So we have 4 players sitting in the top tier, 3 repeats and 1 newbie. Jameson, is this a solid tier 1 for you?
I think it is outside of CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud right now, well, let me start at the top. I think Josh Allen is a lock. I think Patrick Mahomes, just because he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I'll get to him in a second. And then Jalen Hurts, just the fantasy upside you've seen with the tush push. He's got good weapons with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. But as far as C.J. Stroud goes, I know he ended the season really hot, and he's kind of the fantasy darling right now, him and Jordan Love. But, the Texans overall, the pass rate over expectation, they were 19th in the NFL. Bobby Sloak was the guy who always ran on first down. And I know that they added Stephon Diggs and stuff, but just I thought I brought up at the beginning of the show quarterback injuries. I think that elevated CJ Stroud as far as what people really think he is. We got some guys in tier 2 that I think should be more in tier 1, but CJ Stroud kind of sticks out to me. I just think that everybody's gotten a little too overhyped on him, and I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I mean, we're talking tier 1 as far as these guys go, but everything else seems pretty stout. I'd question Patrick Mahomes' future just because Travis Kelce is getting older. He'll be on the Taylor Swift tour full time here coming soon. And then, Hollywood Brown's on a one year contract. The last couple years haven't been his best. Xavier Worthy, we don't know what he is yet. And then, Rashee Rice just hasn't been behaving very well. So as far as him, and I know I'm rambling here, and I'll wrap up in just a second. The thing with Patrick Mahomes, at the beginning of his career, he did a lot of the Houdini stuff. He was moving outside the pocket. He was throwing the bombs to Tyreek Hill. And since he's gotten better as a quarterback, he's almost turned into the Tom Brady Terminator, where just whatever the defense gives him, he'll pick you apart, death by 1,000 cuts. He doesn't have to do all the fancy stuff. And I mean, with all the quarterback injuries last year, he was still only quarterback 7. And with the defense as good as it's been in Kansas City, I say Patrick Mahomes, he might be a value this year. And he's still obviously a very good fantasy quarterback. But as far as like the top tier, the last couple of years, I don't think he's been the top 3, just in my opinion.
So what are you saying? We should move Pat Mahomes and CJ Stroud to tier 2?
I would say I'd move CJ Stroud to tier 2. You can keep Patrick Mahomes. Maybe I'd put Hurts above Patrick Mahomes for now.
All right. Well, let's not worry about the rankings. Let's just look at the tiers.
That'll work.
So CJ Stroud out, in your opinion. Joe, where are you on CJ?
I tend to agree. I think CJ is an awesome quarterback, but I think we're going to see some statistical regression from him next year. Also have to factor in he did miss some games and is not a rushing threat, especially not to the level of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, even Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think he's ever going to grow that aspect of his game, and I don't think he should for NFL purposes. But yeah, I think he's a tier 2 player. He's missed some time. He's an aggressive downfield thrower, which is great for the NFL and can be great for fantasy. However, with that, you're going to get sometimes you're going to throw some picks. We've seen it with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, even Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. If you're aggressive, you're going to throw picks, which is going to hurt your fantasy value. I think he can be a tier 1 quarterback, but also want to see it for more than the 15 games he played for now. Jalen Hurts, I struggle with, but I think he does have to be tier 1 at this point. He's someone I would never draft as a tier 1 quarterback, though. But I think value-wise, he does have to be there with the rushing upside.
All right.
My thing, just real quick with CJ Stroud, is just the lack of rushing ability. I'd just rather have some of these other guys, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson. I mean, for CJ Stroud to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback, I mean, he's going to have to throw, 35, 40 touchdowns? I mean, just have to go basically Peyton Manning 2015 to get there if he's not, obviously running. And he can do it. He's got the weapons. But I just think it's a very narrow way to get to that top tier. So I think tier 2 fits CJ Stroud just fine. That's not us knocking him. Are his rankings.
He's a quarterback who, very similar to another name in tier 2 who we'll get to, I think is going to be a top 5 to top 3 quarterback in the NFL for a decade, but maybe it won't be for fantasy.
Yep.
Be a little bit of a side of that.
Okay, so looking at tier 2, we just added CJ Stroud to tier 2. Is there anybody going to tier 1 from tier 2?
I'll let Joe kick off this round.
I would put Lamar in tier 1. I have him over Jalen Hurts personally, and pretty darn close, if not over Mahomes as well. That rushing upside. Biggest issue there is the health, but if Jalen Hurts is in there with his injury history, I think we have to have Lamar in there too. The 2-time MVP. This was his worst career rushing season as a full-time starter, and he had 800 something yards.
Yep.
He's always going to be a threat there. is turning into a top 6 passer in the NFL, passer as a quarterback. So I think he's a better passer than Jalen Hurts. I think he's a better runner, just not as powerful around the goal line. So I think he's pretty firmly in tier 1.
All right. Jameson, where are you with Lamar Jackson? Are you willing to move him?
I'd say tier 1 as well. He's not my. It's kind of like with Joe with Jalen Hurts. He's not my favorite, but I do think he belongs in tier 1. The rushing upside, offense is finally getting better. Year 2, Todd Monken, offensive coordinator, just got Tez Walker, so he's got a deep threat as far as that goes to go with Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews is coming back this year along with Isaiah Likely. And then they also have Derrick Henry, so they can do a lot of fun stuff at the goal line. If they sell out for Derrick Henry and then, Lamar ends up taking it himself, he gets the goal line stuff. Similar to Jalen Hurts. But I do think that Lamar is a tier 1 quarterback there.
All right, so Lamar is moved into tier 1. That leaves us with the rest of tier 2. So, Jameson, what are your thoughts on tier 2 overall?
Well, I guess I'm going to start getting my bag real quick here with Anthony Richardson. And I know I do not want to come off as a hot take artist. That's not what we're here for. I would personally, I don't think you can rank it like this. He would be in tier 1 for me. Last year, I know he only played 4 games, but, he was number 1 at points per drop back. He had as many top 6 scoring weeks as CJ Stroud did, and that was with him only playing 4 weeks. That's kind of part of the reason, the CJ Stroud. I want to compare Anthony Richardson, and I know it's only 4 games, but Christian McCaffrey, when he went through that spell where he was injured and people were like, oh, I can't pull the trigger on him. When he's on the field, he's going to ball out. We saw him last year with San Francisco, running back 1, absolutely destroyed. Anthony Richardson, when he was on the field for those 4 games, absolutely decimated. He played the Texans, and he was going to go for over 40 fantasy points before he got knocked out. And, he's with Shane Steichen, the weapons there. He also didn't play with Jonathan Taylor any. They played like 3 or 4 snaps because of injuries. I just think there is so much and going right for him. They're going to play fast. That's how Shane Steichen plays. And I just think that the rushing upside, he's almost to me like Cam Newton 2015 on steroids. I really do believe that. And I think he'll be a tier 1 player by the end of the year. I'm very bullish on him. I'd rather have him than CJ Stroud right now. And outside maybe Joe Burrow, I'd have him above the rest like it's listed there. But Anthony Richardson's my favorite fantasy player overall coming into this year. And I think I'm getting him at a slight discount.
Interesting. Joe?
So I would not have Richardson tier 1. Not yet, just the 4 games dealio. But I totally understand the hype. I really hope he turns into that as a Colts fan. But he looked really good in those couple games he did play. Very worried about the injuries, but also it's kind of take it, risk it, no risk it, no biscuit. He's going to run. You're going to get popped. He has way more body armor than even a Lamar Jackson, who I just talked about loving. So has that ability to sustain more hits and hopefully take care of himself better, and has shown off incredible elite level arm talent. So, and I think that Colts have put a really good receiving core around him. So as a passer, I think he can be very similar to like an early career Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, those numbers, and solid passing numbers boosted by the run. So I get it. I hope he becomes a tier 1 quarterback by the end of the year. But I think there's a real chance he could. I'm just not there quite yet.
I'm just ahead of the train. I don't want to come here next year and then be behind on Anthony Richardson. So
absolutely,
I think, especially in Dynasty, if you believe in Anthony Richardson, this will be the cheapest he will ever be if he hits. I mean, if he hits this upcoming year, you will not be able to buy him. I think some people are scared of the injury stuff, which that's not how I play fantasy football, but I get it. Like the Christian McCaffrey, everybody got really scared off of him and didn't want to draft him. I still was. Because when he's healthy and he's on the field, he's going to smash. And I just feel that way about Anthony Richardson. It's a very small sample size, but like I said, I'm very bullish on him, and I think I'm getting him at a discount too.
Totally get that. And I will say, I think there's only one name on this list, maybe 2 that I would take. No, there's only one name I would take above him from this tier 2 list that I would take above Richardson. And I would still take him above Jalen Hurts. So I get it. That's just still tier 2 for me.
All
I think
right.
that's fair.
So we're satisfied with tier 2 right now. Like nobody else should move to tier 1,
No,
don't
I would
think
say
so.
no one to tier 1.
and nobody
don't thi-
should move out of tier 2.
I think Caleb Williams kind of debatable just because I haven't seen it. I know he's got good weapons, but Shane Waldron offense, I didn't love it last year with Seattle, but we'll see. I mean he's a number 1 overall draft pick. I think he probably should stay here. It's just me being a little bit, prove it to me before I put you here. But I think everything's fine here. I do think just real quick, Joe Burrow is going a little bit undervalued. He's just been hurt last year. People haven't seen him recently. Still one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league. Zach Taylor, they're going to throw the piss out of the ball. He's going to line up in shotgun. He's going to spread everything out. He's just going to launch it across the yard. So really like him. Justin Herbert, kind of iffy on him. I'm curious to see how Joe feels about him. And then, we've talked about the rest here.
Yeah, so Burrow, I've always been lower on, but I've seen him in a couple startups going outside of the top 8, 9 picks in a super flex league, which as low as I am on Burrow compared to consensus, that's absurd. I think so. I agree. He's definitely out of value. He's firm tier 2 player. The health is a concern, but I think at that point, you're also not going to get this upside somewhere else. So with a
Right.
Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, Burton, etc. Herbert is the name who I would still take above Anthony Richardson, but I will fully admit that's largely bias to Herbert and just he is my favorite player in the league. So if I've had to make that choice before and it's like, well, I don't know where to go here. And he and Richardson are the top of the tier to me. Williams there, Stroud as well. But yeah, I think they're all firmly in this tier.
I think people are scared of Justin Herbert right now. So if you
Yeah.
with that, I get it. My thought process is I don't think the Chargers team overall is built very well. I know they want to run the ball, but if they're down 20 points, they're not really in a place to establish it. And they're going to, especially in Dynasty, Justin Herbert's going to get weapons. I mean, he's not going to be playing with Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey, just those two forever. They're going to get better. And I think he's kind of like a buy low candidate right now, just because I think some people are off of him.
Bye. I wholeheartedly agree there. And I think the Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh run the ball concerns are super overhyped right now. With Colin Kaepernick, the Niners had a slightly below pass rate, like below average, I should say. Like they're still letting Colin Kaepernick, noted super not accurate quarterback, throw 27 times a game.
Yep.
And Alex Smith, he was throwing 30 times a game. And that was what, about a decade ago?
It was
I think
2013 was when Kaepernick had his great year. I was actually talking about Justin Herbert on the All Out Blitz the other day. He was one of my buy candidates for the first 12. He's going at 12 overall for redraft ADP. And my argument for him was just looking at the play action passing. Last year, he was one of the top play action pass attempts, but he was like bottom in ADOT on those attempts. So because they had no rushing attack, and that's something I think is going to be a massive change this year. And looking back to the Kaepernick season from 2013, like his ADOT on play action was about 4 yards more than what Herbert was last year. So I think there's a plenty of room for him to grow into this offense, and maybe it won't be as prolific as some others, but I think it's going to be a lot more effective than it has been. Agreed. Even without the weapons that he needs.
And people make fun of the Joe Alt pick, and it's just Harbaugh's a weird dude. But I mean, Trey Pipkins at right tackle really let Herbert down the last couple of years. The interior offensive line there, Jamari Sawyer fits way better as a guard, and he had to play tackle the last 2 years a lot of times. I think it is really offensive linemen are weapons, as Harbaugh said, and it's going to keep him upright so he can throw the ball deep and use that arm, use his mental ability. So I think long-term, he's going to be fine. Yeah, there might be some struggles this year, but dynasty-wise, yeah, I'm still all in.
Yep. I tend to agree there. So I think tier 2 kind of sets up pretty nicely there as it is.
All right, so
And
let's
then to
take a
hit
look.
Caleb real quick, sorry, just
Yep, go ahead.
generational type talent, one of the best support systems that we've seen for a young quarterback. So willing to buy in that. Tier 2 is aggressive, but also Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud have been ranked aggressively, so I'm totally fine with it.
All right, well, let's take a look at tier 3 and see if there's anybody in tier 3 who we think should move up to tier 2.
I guess I will start for the tier 3. I think Kyler can sneak into tier 2 from week 10 on, averaging 18.9 fantasy points per game. That was coming off a torn ACL. Didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. It was basically just him and Trey McBride. I think that Arizona can be a borderline playoff team this year. I really like what they've done. I know they were a bad team, but they've been continuously improving. I think the GM's good. I think Gannon really proved himself as a head coach. It wasn't a very talented squad last year, and even though they didn't win a lot of games, they were in all of them. And so I thought Kyler Murray, when he's been healthy, he's been very good fantasy wise, a borderline quarterback or top 10 quarterback in fantasy. And I don't see him getting any more expensive throughout the off season, heading into the season. So I like Kyler Murray here. I think he's a guy who can, with his rushing ability, can kind of sneak into tier 2 here.
So, Joe, do you think Kyler Murray should move to tier 2?
I do. I think health is the big issue here. Having Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, Drew Petzing showed a lot of creativity and talent as a first-year play caller, and I think that's only going to get better. Line is improving. I think he's an awesome player. Jameson gave us the numbers, and yeah. There's also one, potentially two more from tier 3 that I would move up. And that's Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I think, is a firm tier 2 player. I'm taking him over Kyler, Caleb at this point. I'm taking him over Joe Burrow right now, honestly. I'm all in on the Jordan Love train. I think he is an incredible quarterback. And yeah, there were a lot of growing pains in the middle part of the season, but I mean, he was a rookie. And I think he legitimately played like a top 6-7 real life NFL quarterback this year. And weapons are with the youngest receiving room in the league, youngest team on the league, and they're all only getting more experienced, going to get better in a great offense with a great play caller. And yeah, I think he's the real deal.
All right, so Jordan Love. Jameson, does he move?
I'm going to say yes, barely. I'm going to be like 51% to 49%. And I will say yes. I'm not as aggressive on Jordan Love, but I totally see it, especially the playoff game against the 49ers. And just that, I know he started off pretty rough this season, but I mean, that back half of the season, that throw off the back foot, I mean, he's just a total gangster. I don't know. I mean, one of the prettier deep balls in the league, I think. I think Christian Watson will come back and he'll be healthy. I know we're worried about the hamstring stuff. Jaden Reed, I really like Dontavian Wicks. If you are drafting and need a wide receiver later, I think he's a great pickup too. But you like the weapons. Josh Jacobs, as far as the running backs concerned. And then I think he's a borderline tier 2. But I'm going to agree. I'm not as aggressive as Joe is, but I do think he sneaks into that tier 2. But I've seen a lot of dynasty stuff. A lot of people really like him. He's almost not as hyped as CJ Stroud, but I mean, they're almost kind of together as far as these guys who just have the hype train right behind them.
Yeah.
All right. So Jordan Love moved over. Jameson, Joe, is there anybody else from tier 3 you think should move over to tier 1?
I want to put Trevor Lawrence there, but I don't trust the receivers and I don't trust Doug Peterson. And by Doug Peterson, I mean Press Taylor and more importantly, Trent Baalke. Trevor, I think, is a top 8 quarterback in the league. But fantasy-wise, I can't trust it right now.
It makes me mad. I hate to interrupt it, but I think Trevor Lawrence is a lot better than what people think. He started off with Urban Meyer, who should be in prison for being such an a-hole. I hate him. And then just, I thought they did some fun stuff, the playoff game against the Chargers. And then Doug Peterson decided to give up the reins to Press Taylor. And he was horrible last year. Uncreative.
So
we'll see about Calvin Ridley in Tennessee, but I thought they could have done a lot of better stuff with Calvin Ridley last year. And the offense just never got going. I think Trevor Lawrence is a lot better than what people think. But I agree, just fantasy wise, even though they got
Mm-hmm.
the rookie wide receiver, he's got to stay tier 3.
He's
Love the
one
talent.
I would say. Oh, sorry. If you're
Just saying, love the
rebuilding,
talent.
he is someone I am buying so fast. Or if you're a team with Dak Prescott and Matt Stafford as your starters, I'm buying him as my QB3 for a competitive team. Just I think he's someone similar to Herbert right now, who's being super deflated and really is significantly better.
All right, so that's all of the players that are going to move from tier 3 to tier 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
I believe so.
To me.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I love doing this live with you, but there is also nothing better than a live draft. Literally, nothing is better. So get ahead of the game right now with Trophy Smack's gorgeous draft boards, complete with player stickers so deep you couldn't possibly need them all. And for the first time, Trophy Smack has an IDP expansion pack for all of us defensive and IDP degenerates. So no more scribbling names on blank stickers. Go to Trophy Smack and get the only draft board that meets all of your needs. Check out the link in the show description and get yours today. All right, gentlemen, you know what that means. Let's take a look at group tier 4 and see if we have to move anybody over. Let's see if I can do this smoothly.
Ooh.
I could
There
not.
we go.
Close enough.
Not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at it that way.
Okay.
All right. We'll see. So now tier 4 is a massive, massive tier. Is there anybody in tier 4 who you think should join Trevor, Jaden, Dak, Brock, and Tua?
I will let Joe kick this off. I've seen the top name, and I'm very curious to hear what he's got to say about his boy Drake Maye, and then we'll go from there.
I'm 100% putting Drake Maye in tier 3.
I knew it.
Easily. We know my bias if you've been listening to the show at all. Yeah. And I'll leave it at that. I think, and on other shows, and we've said how well I think they're supporting him. So, again, not a redraft play, but yeah, easy tier 3. I would put him borderline tier 2, but I know that's crazy right now. Jared Goff.
Drake Maye, hold on.
Yeah.
Jameson.
Oh,
Drake
I'm sorry.
Maye.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I'll just cut you off.
We can
got rolling.
I'm going to keep him a tier 4 for now. But
whoa.
I want to say we're going to get to you in just a second.
Yes.
I think he stays tier 4 for now, but I really like the upside. And I know we're doing just rookie drafts. I don't think people are excited about Drake Maye, and they should be, because we did this thing with CJ Stroud where situation sucked and the team can't get better, and within 1 year he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback. He's going to be the greatest of all time. Blah blah blah. I mean, Drake May's got all the tools. Kind of similar to, I don't want to compare him to Josh Allen as far as the player goes, but people dumped all over that pick when he went to Buffalo because he was a raw prospect, but he had a lot of tools. I think Drake Maye can kind of grow into one of the top quarterbacks in the league, but he's going to stay at quarterback or tier 4 for now, and we will let Mr. JJ decide our fate.
Everybody, please be seated. The judge is in session. Court is in session. Where's Drew Davenport when I need him? All right. So Joe, you're pushing him to move up. Jameson, you want him to stay in place. Listen, you're right. Josh Allen did come into the league with a lot of tools and developed into a great quarterback. But Josh Allen was terrible. And he's a unicorn in the fact that he improved as much as he did. Like, I don't think we'll ever see another quarterback make as big of a jump from Josh Allen's first snaps in the NFL to where he went to. Like that, it was a meteoric rise. So I don't think Drake Maye is guaranteed to make the same ascension. Outside of the top 2 rookies, I'm really not leaning into moving any rookie into tier 3. So no, Drake Maye is staying place. Hear ye. Objection
anvil or
noted.
whatever
I don't
it
know. I have to watch Law and Order. It's been a minute.
Objection.
Counselor, watch yourself, McCoy. I don't know.
There you go.
That's all they ever
my
said.
computer.
That's all they ever said.
Um,
All right.
understand.
Who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next to moving up?
I think for me, I would move Jared Goff into tier 3 just because of the offensive environment. I think Ben Johnson staying is a huge deal for him. You're going to get a full season of Jahmyr Gibbs. I know he was healthy all year, but I mean, he really took off that second half of the season when they really started to implement him. All the pieces stay in place. I think they play most of their games indoors this year, which is huge for the Lions offense that's going to play fast. And I think he really proved himself last year, and he was very good as far as a fantasy quarterback. And I think he belongs in that tier 3.
Joe?
I'm no Jared Goff stan, but if we're putting Brock Purdy and Tua in tier 3, Jared Goff has to be there. He's the most talented of those 3. I don't think that's particularly close. And
I'd put him ahead of both of them.
Yeah, but agreed. But yeah, I think with Ben Johnson there again, just got a big deal. Come playoff time, do I believe in Jared Goff? NFL playoffs? No, but for fantasy, quarterback 7 this year. And what was he at last year? 10. Yep.
And he signed an extension, so you can be kind of secure in the fact that he'll be starting for a few years.
And he's only 29. So
is that it?
Yeah.
Seems like he's been in the league for a long time.
Yeah. He has been.
He seems like he's been in the league a lot longer than that. All right.
This is year 9. So
wow. Yeah. I'm old. All right. Joe, anybody else from tier 4?
I'm moving Matt Stafford up. This is a short-term play, but I think Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, some guy named Sean McVay, and the lack of a guy named Aaron Donald, I think Stafford is absolute fireball. And yeah, he's someone who I'm taking. There's the dynasty aspect. Like, yes, he's older, he has injuries, but I'm taking him over in the startup over every single name, minus maybe Dak in tier 3 right now, if I'm trying to win. So,
oh, okay.
Spicy, but I think this year,
Muy caliente.
Yeah, but I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. I think he can be next year too. And
Jameson.
As far as dynasty goes, I think I'm going to have to call in backup support. I mean, he was quarterback 15 last year, so he probably belongs as far as the rankings in that Tua, Jared Goff kind of range. But as far as dynasty goes, I think he's got like a year or 2 left. If you are contending or you're playing a lot of super flex stuff now, I think if you wanted to not necessarily go all in, but kind of bank on that, I think he'd be the play there. He's going to stay in tier 4 for me just because we're the Ride Or Dynasty, talking about dynasty stuff. But as far as just regular redraft, I think he probably belongs in tier 3. But that's where we're going to differ here.
And I will say, with him being quarterback 15 last year, I do not expect the combo of Kyron Williams and Blake Corum to score so many touchdowns in the red zone this year as they did last year. I'm expecting those to go to Stafford, another 3 or 4. So,
well, like a father being asked to choose which of his sons he loves the best, I have to say I love you both equally. Joe, I think you make a great point about what Stafford's able to do in this year and possibly next year. But Jameson makes a solid point with this is dynasty. Now, I'm not somebody who built a dynasty with a 5-year window. That's insane. But man, 3 years. I want my quarterback to have a 70% chance to be playing starting in 3 years. And I don't know if Stafford has that for me. So I think Stafford might finish among the tier 3 quarterbacks easily this year. But for me, I'm going to keep him in tier 4 just for the longevity.
Yeah, with him being 36 and the previous injuries, I totally get it. Another one of my favorite players who I'm way more biased on. So I'll fully admit that.
We all have our biases. I just recently renounced my citizenship to Dakistan and abandoned Dak Prescott. So it happens. It happens. Joe, anybody else from tier 4 moving up?
This time next year, I think Will Levis will be, but I don't. I don't think I can do it yet. I was a big Will Levis fan as a prospect.
Did we just break up?
No.
Did
Oh,
we?
you-
Did we just like no longer be friends?
You're not a Will Levis guy, JJ?
Oh my word! No.
Oh, no,
I mean,
we
but
might
I'm
have-
stupid. Like, Jameson, are you? Are you?
Is he stupid or a
gonna make-
fan?
I was going to make a bull case for Will Levis, but if we're going to lose our host of the show over this, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But
Wow, maybe I
He's a
was
tough
off.
one.
I picked him as somebody I was avoiding.
it's
I
I
think
really
his
like
ADP. Yeah, go ahead, Jameson. Sorry.
I was going to say just real quick, I really like new head coach Brian Callahan, especially last year when Joe Burrow was out. They did a lot of really good stuff with the backup just to keep that offense going. I think the offensive line's better. And short term, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard. I think, and it's not that I think Will Levis is necessarily good, but with these quarterbacks, he's aggressive, and that's like all I can ask for as far as somebody who you try to take a chance on and hope that they hit their ceiling. I mean, his first game he scored 4 touchdowns.
But then he scored 4 more the rest of the
Rest
season.
of the year. Yeah. So it's
Like,
just he's
I don't
somebody so
know.
cheap. He's somebody so cheap I'm willing to take a shot on.
Well,
I guess I'll
listen,
put
let's
it that
not
way.
judge his proclivities. Like, I don't. All right.
Yeah,
So
it's a
nobody.
weird-
Are you guys
Yeah.
moving him up? Because if you guys both agree, I'll move him.
No.
I think
He's got
if Drake May's staying, I don't think we can move Levis over him.
There we go. All right.
So
tier 3 is done. We have Lawrence, Daniels, Prescott, Purdy, Tua, and Goff. And we're happy with
and Drake
that.
May.
And not Drake
No,
May.
and
And
not
not Will Levis.
No.
All right.
I think that's set. I do want to just talk about Jaden Daniels real quick, just because some guy we both glanced over. If
Yep.
his rushing upside is as much as everybody has talked about, I know he did a lot of good stuff at LSU. I mean, he will probably sneak into tier 2 down the road. I don't love Washington, so it's not that. But just, I mean, if say everything goes wrong as far as the offense goes and he's running for his life, we all know that running kind of cures everything in fantasy. We saw that with Justin Fields. He's slow processor, inaccurate, but he ran for his life, and that was the upside. So I think him could have some upside down the road. I'm just not there personally. And then Dak Prescott's probably going to throw it across the yard this year because Ezekiel Elliott is his running back 1. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, but I don't know if Dak can have as good of a year as last year, but I think
Probably
Dak is well placed. I think Jaden Daniels is well placed. You know, I do have some injury concerns about him with his running style now that he's in the NFL. But let's dive into tier 4, gentlemen. And that's quite a big tier. We have Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Bryce Young, Watson, Cousins, Levis, Mayfield, Stafford, Nix, Fields, and Penix. Who do we not think belongs in this tier and should go to tier 5? Joe?
This is tough. I almost want to add a 6th tier here.
Well,
I feel like there's
I can add anything you want, my friend.
like we have that group of Bryce Young, Bo Nix, Justin Fields, Michael Penix Jr., and I think another name. Those guys. What do we do with them? Like, I don't trust any of them right now. It's not a tier 6 as much as like a limbo. Is like I don't want to touch any of them right now, but they all have a lot invested in them. But then you look at tier 5, and it's like how I have a couple names. One name I would take over them, but the rest we have a bunch of older / injury prone players. So
Yep.
I think.
All right. So if we're looking at tier 4, 5, and 6, then 4, 5, and purgatory, as we're calling it, how do you want to structure these tiers? Because we can put whoever we want wherever we want.
I think the purgatory tier is more of like a flex 4, 5, but not trying not to be wishy-washy here, but Deshaun Watson would be the other name in there that I missed out. There it is. But these guys don't really want to deal with right now.
I was very in on Deshaun Watson last year as a value. And I know he looked horrible before he got hurt, but as far as fantasy goes, he was rushing. And that's all you can ask for on these like late if you want to draft him as a quarterback too. Not necessarily buying him, but I don't know if it's just so bad. This tier is almost hell. Like I'm not as bullish on Kirk Cousins as others. Baker Mayfield's kind of whatever. JJ McCarthy's kind of interesting. I think Bryce Young should be in tier 5. Just from how bad things were last year.
See, I actually think Bryce Young has more upside. I don't think Bryce Young belongs in tier 3, but I would have him solidly in tier 4. He was the number 1 pick a year ago. The offense has gotten a lot better, and it was a terrible it was a terrible situation. Like, right. This rivaled Fields' first year in Chicago for poor coaching, poor offensive line, poor weapons, just poor. Like Moses Malone, except po. Like terrible, terrible. So I don't think if you're looking to buy somebody really cheap, you can probably get Bryce Young for a song.
Yeah, I think he's basically free. My thing with Bryce Young, I do think he can improve. I just don't know what his ceiling is as a fantasy quarterback. That's like my mindset, because even if he improves, I mean, is he thrown for 30 touchdowns? Is he running? Like, where does he end up if he improves? That's my thought process. I know the situation was bad last year. That's just kind of where I sit there with Bryce Young. I just don't know if his ceiling gets. I'm sure it gets better. I mean, it can't be any worse than it was last year, just as far as fantasy goes.
Yeah, is his ceiling Derek Carr?
Man,
is it higher?
Derek Carr should be in purgatory. I nominate him for the first person in purgatory.
Somebody nobody wants.
Yeah, including the Saints.
But I do think we probably need to have a conversation here about Kirk Cousins. I'd love to hear what Joe feels about him. I'm having a hard time with him.
All right, let's focus a little bit here.
Yeah, sorry, it's hard here.
We're going off the way.
No, it's okay. We're having a conversation, and conversations sometimes take different angles. So, if we're looking at tiers 4, 5, and then purgatory is where the quarterbacks we don't know what to do with. Are any of you drafting Deshaun Watson?
Not a chance. Granted, a lot of that is the off-field stuff. Someone who, in the fantasy, it's fun. I don't have fun with him on my team.
I don't think I am unless he is super duper falling down the ranks. So I'd say probably not.
So for me personally, like, I'm putting him over in purgatory. I don't think there's really a chance that I am going to draft Deshaun Watson. Again, is it all the off-field stuff? Yes. But it's also his on-field stuff wasn't great.
Yeah.
Like, the offense just functioned better under Flacco. It looked better. The weapons looked better. Everything looked better. And when Joe Flacco is making the offense look better, I don't know. That's a big question mark for me. So if we're looking at older QBs, then Kirk Cousins, who you guys were about to talk to, is that another guy we don't feel that strong in?
I think so. With Michael Penix there at 8, it's not like they took him where Will Levis went last year. It's top 10 pick. I think he's got to go in purgatory. It's like, yeah, he's going to be the starter this year if he's fully recovered from an Achilles injury at 36. And then what happens next year? He's going to be under contract, but is it going to be he starts the next 25 games for the Falcons and then Michael Penix takes over? I don't see a way that he's the starter there in 3 years and then he's 39.
So what do you think, Jameson? Purgatory for Kirk?
I would say so, unless you just are desperate for a quarterback. I'm lower on Kirk Cousins and the Falcons offense than most. And I say that as somebody who absolutely loves Kirk Cousins, but an older quarterback coming off an Achilles, and we're drafting Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London all, I mean, top 10 in their positions. I mean, something's got to give. And we've seen it with these older quarterbacks, especially, Matt Ryan, for example. When their arm falls off, it falls. And you're asking a guy who you're getting power from your legs to throw football. Is he going to have the same juice that he once did? He's a statue quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. Offensive line, I thought, should have been better than what it was last year. I'm having a hard time with Kirk Cousins. I'm lower to begin with, and he's not somebody I'm going after, so we will add him to purgatory.
Yeah, I like him for redraft. He's probably going to end up around in that quarterback 15-ish area, but Dynasty, he's got to go in purgatory.
All right, Kirk Cousins. No indulgences for you, buddy. Straight to purgatory. Let's see. So Will Levis, you guys were pretty much settled on. Stafford, you were settled on.
Yeah.
That leaves Mayfield, Nix, Fields, and Penix in tier 4. You good with all of them?
I'm not sure about Justin Fields because I really don't think he starts the season. They've made it pretty clear that Russell Wilson's going to start, and I don't like Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what the Steelers are doing necessarily because Russell Wilson is not the long-term answer, obviously, and you would think they'd want to see if they can fix Justin Fields or if he can be decent enough. But, it really sounds like he's not going to start. So as much as I love him as a fantasy quarterback, I think he probably at least belongs in tier 5.
Well, Steelers probably have the most talent at the QB position per dollar spent than any team in the league.
That's accurate.
And I think that's their plan, right? Like this 1-year transition. Let's see what we can do with these two quarterbacks who somebody else is paying for this year.
Yeah. I'm willing to put him in purgatory just for the legs factor for fantasy, but NFL wise, he'd be a tier 6 quarterback.
So we're moving Fields to purgatory.
I could see him getting another chance, but also he went for a 6th-round pick. So,
all right.
That's tough. I think I would say tier 5, but if you can get Justin Fields.
Part of it, I'm also thinking that purgatory ends up like tier 4.5. Like I think I'm going to take the purgatory players over the tier 5 ones. It's kind of how I'm feeling about this. It's more of like you need a shot. It's like you need an upside shot, whereas the tier 5 is like what you're getting and it's not that great, or it's a year of decent.
Gotcha.
So you're doing this.
That's kind of where I'm leaning now, which would then mean we got to get Derek Carr out of there. But
yeah, well, he belongs in purgatory regardless. But
what do we think about?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Nix and Penix.
Well, I think based upon what you guys said about Cousins, if you think Cousins is in purgatory, that means Penix should be in tier 4.
I think I agree.
It doesn't make any sense for him not to be with a top 10 pick. He's going to have to see the field, you would think.
Yeah.
That's my thought process there. And then he'll stay there at tier 4. And then Bo Nix, I'm almost worried if we are too low on him, even if he's not a great NFL quarterback. Nobody is buying in. And it's another situation where things can get better. So,
yeah. Both of them are falling into the mid-second in rookie drafts right now in super flex leagues, and they both were top 12 picks. I don't love the talent of either, but they were top 12 picks. Bo Nix is going to start at least a dozen games this year.
Yep.
It's a tier 4 player.
So I think tier 4 right there is just about set.
All right. So the rookie tier.
Here we go.
We're putting
Gino, I'm firmly putting in here. I know not many are going to agree with me, but he is I think I would put Gino in tier 3 very easily. I'm the Gino high. I'm the high man on Gino. I think he's legit. Sam Howell, I don't think is a real NFL quarterback. He is not a threat to me whatsoever. Gino's a legit fireball thrower. Great understanding of multiple offenses, as he's shown, even in Seattle. and moving over from there. And the system with Ryan Grubb is a perfect fit for him. Really, he's Michael Penix if Michael Penix was really good, in my opinion, and not injury prone. So,
but I will agree on. I don't. Well, you'll be alone on tier 3. I think Geno belongs in tier 4. I do. I was going to say that. I was just saying tier 4 as is. I love Geno Smith. I'm also a West Virginia homer, but I think Geno Smith in this offense, they're going to cook. I think DK Metcalf's going to have a great year. JSN, I think, is a great buy right now after a disappointing rookie year. And then Tyler Lockett, just Tyler Lockett. But I like this offense better than what they had last year with Shane Waldron. And I really think, especially in drafts right now, Geno Smith is going basically for free, kind of like what Brock Purdy did last year, even though all his weapons got drafted really high and then the quarterback's just sitting at the bottom. I think this year, Geno Smith is kind of in that Brock Purdy, the late guy who is going to hit, and for whatever reason, we're just overlooking it. So he will be tier 4 for me. I agree.
In a dynasty startup I just did, he went at Superflex, he went 13-9.
That's ridiculous.
It's absurd.
That is criminal.
Quarterback 19 last year is his floor, I think.
So tier 4 is finished. We have the 4 rookies, Maye, McCarthy, Nix, and Penix. We have Bryce Young and Levis from last year. So this is a young guy draft with Mayfield, Stafford, and Smith thrown in there for a little veteran saison, little flavoring. We're happy with tier 4?
I am.
I can't do Aaron Rodgers. I can't put him there.
I will not.
Why not? What's the difference between him and Matt Stafford? I'm not saying I agree. I'm just for me, theoretically, what's the difference?
Aaron Rodgers is coming off a terrible injury. I don't necessarily trust him to stay healthy, and I don't know how long he's going to last in New York playing.
Fair enough.
He doesn't really do well with the media anymore. He's a little bit crazy, and he's coming from Green Bay, which doesn't have a strong media presence. And now he's in New York. And when you're in New York as the quarterback, there is a spotlight on you, especially when you're playing. So last year, it was the sad year. So nobody really critiqued him too hard. And he said a lot of stupid crap last year. And the more he gets interviewed and the more he plays, I think the more he's going to do something that's just going to screw it up for him. I just don't trust him.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. So to me, I can't move him to 4. Maybe for redraft, I would have him definitely higher than that for 1 year, but I don't see a long-term viability for him.
I will say he just didn't look that good at the end of Green Bay, and we totally forget that just because it's been, obviously about 2 years ago. That's another thing. Nathaniel Hackett, he sucks. I'm sure JJ is well aware of that. And I know he's not going to be running the offense. It'll be the Aaron Rodgers show. But outside of Garrett Wilson, I know they have Breece Hall. The rest of the weapons, Malachi Corley, he's okay. But, if he breathes the wrong way, Aaron Rodgers will have him set home so he can have Randall Cobb on the field at all times. And he's coming off an Achilles just like Kirk Cousins and an older quarterback. I'm always worried. I've just seen it with, Drew Brees, Big Ben. When their arm's shot, it's not like a downfield slope. They flatline. It's over with. So
it's over, Johnny.
There you go. And as far as just upside, as long as, the only way I see him actually getting there as a fantasy quarterback, remember the year with Devontae Adams where they'd get to the 1 yard line and he would purposely target Devontae Adams instead of giving it to Aaron Jones. I feel like that's the only way he gets there as a fantasy quarterback. I don't think so. He would be tier 5 for me as well.
Not purgatory.
I'm not drafting him, but I know I'm open to. I'm going to have 0 of them this year. I would put him in purgatory, but I know you like him. So
I do not like him very much. I think he will be decent for redraft. I'm just kind of.
Well, then let's put him in purgatory where he belongs.
Yeah, that's kind of more.
But is it purgatory above tier 5?
I mean, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers comfortably over the other names in tier 5.
All right. So Aaron Rodgers is moving to tier purgatory, aka 4.5.
Yeah.
All right. That leaves in tier 5 Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell, and Gardner Minshew.
I'm not going to have any of the bottom 3, and I don't really care for Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So I would. Ugh, this is ugly.
If someone feels like they have to put Daniel Jones in purgatory, I get it. I'm also just not going to touch him.
My thing with
I can
Daniel Jones is he's coming off the ACL, so these quarterbacks usually don't run as much as they did. We saw Kyler last year, but that's the only reason why he ends up fantasy relevant. I know they just drafted Malik Neighbors, but Giants offense, even with Dayball there, it's just been really tough to watch the last couple of years. It's been very vanilla. I don't think he's been able to implement what he actually wanted to do just because the personnel there just kind of stinks. So I would just leave this as, I'd say probably as is. And then purgatory could be if you need to open the cellar and grab one of the quarterbacks if you're in desperation. I think we can label purgatory as that.
Like the break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's
it's not hell, but pretty close to it.
Is there anybody we missed on here? There's no Aiden O'Connell, but I don't know if we need to talk about Aiden.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, I agree. I'd be putting Spencer Rattler's name in the ring too.
I was going to bring him up as well. If Derek Carr stinks like we think he is, and Dennis Allen is coaching for his job this year, probably we see desperate times get desperate measures. I think he should be, especially if you're playing super flex, he should be a late round flyer that people aren't really thinking about. But outside of him, and then Jameis Winston, if the Deshaun Watson stuff goes south, I think he belongs in that tier as well. Just for the fun and the interviews and the interceptions, I think it just all makes it worthwhile.
Did I forget an A in Jameis? Yeah.
There you go.
Winston, sorry.
I think other names just to mention, you have your Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, the temporary starters. Fine with taking them as your QB3 for right now. I have a bunch of leagues where I have Brissett, where I took Drake Maye, and just have Jacoby Brissett in the second. Yeah, just to be a spot holder on my QB3. Trey Lance, I think we need to mention. If Dak's still only under contract for one more year, granted Lance is too, but then I guess
and only one of those is a QB. So we have added to tier 5 Spencer Rattler, Aiden O'Connell, Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett. I did not add Sam Darnold because I can't do it as a Jets fan.
Fair.
So are we satisfied now? Adding those 4 to Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell, and Gardner Minshew.
I think that's fair.
I think so.
Any chance we move Howell to purgatory?
Putting my Geno love aside, I think it's reasonable.
I mean, Washington moved him because he was too much of an alpha in the locker room. Right? They said that was part of the reasoning why they moved him, because everybody loved him.
Sure.
I don't know. Makes total sense.
For fantasy, I think it's reasonable to put him there. I wouldn't for an NFL quarterback, but he put up good fantasy numbers this year. He was quarterback 12.
Well, I'll only move him if you both agree.
I think it's fair. Just because Geno is an older quarterback.
And it is a new staff.
Yeah. So, but other than that, the only guy we didn't really talk about, I'm not drafting personally, but he did do very well, all things considered, was Russell Wilson. I'm not going to draft him. But there's nothing more unsexy than Russell Wilson late in a draft.
Or Russell Wilson in general.
In general, yeah. Just Mr. Unlimited. I
forgot which word he was. So he is unlimited. All right, so let's recap our tiers.
Yes.
We have tier 1, Josh Allen, Pat
Go
Mahomes,
Pokes.
Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. Tier 2, Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson, Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love. Remember, these are not in any order, just by tiers. Tier 3, Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jared Goff. Tier 4, Drake Maye, JJ McCarthy, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Geno Smith. Purgatory, in case of emergency, break glass on Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and Sam Howell. And tier 5, DJ, Russell Wilson, Gardner Minshew, Spencer Rattler, Aiden O'Connell, Jameis, and Jacoby Brissett. Anything you want to change before I bang the gavel on this session? I know you're all looking at Derek Carr, wondering if we should move him out of purgatory.
Honestly, that is the main thing I'm looking at. But, I mean, he's going to start at least. He's the starter going into week 1, and as much as I did like Spencer Rattler as a prospect, it's going to take a collapse towards the end of the season for him to see the field or an injury. But I think Carr's got to stay in purgatory.
I agree there. I think everything looks good. If I had my own tier, I would put Anthony Richardson at 1.5 just for fairness and unbiasedness. But other than that, I think we did pretty good tonight.
All right. Well, I know you might think that we were hired based on our looks, but we are not just some pretty faces here at IDP Plus. We have an entire suite of tools and rankings for both offense and defense. We have rookie rankings, injury trackers, snap count tools, premium articles, more, lots of stuff. So right now, get your first month for just $1 with the promo code MOCKDRAFT. Head over to idpguys.org after the show to get ahead of your lazy league mates and start your march towards fantasy football greatness today with the promo code MOCKDRAFT. The link and details are in the show description. Gentlemen, it is time for tags, where we share any final thoughts and let everyone know where they can find us. Jameson.
As always, I'm on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules, just tweeting gambling, wrestling, all that good stuff. And every week here on the Rod Pod, just really enjoying it. So I'm happy to be here as always, and I appreciate being here every single week.
Appreciate having you. Joe.
You can find me on Twitter at JoeLo63. Weekly on the Rod Pod. I had a little lighter presence as I've started the new job recently. But thank you both as always for being the best.
It is our pleasure. I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter. Thank you to Joe and Jameson for all of their hard work on this episode. Special thank you to the crew at IDP Plus for helping produce the pod. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday to the All Out Blitz, where Doug and I play a game of smash or pass with tight ends. Then come back on Friday for the Rod Pod, where we will take a look at running back tiers. From all of us to all of you, be safe, be well, and as always, boat drinks, my friends, boat drinks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.